St. Clement's is not my first rodeo. In 2009, I began my first incumbency at a parish in the West End called St. David's. Situated along Lawrence Avenue West, just east of Jane Street, the neighborhood was a mashup of vibrancy and violence. In the palm of one hand, there was Lloyd's Jamaican restaurant, where I could get fried chicken with rice and peas for $5. Streets full to overflowing with 100 World Cup flags. A beautiful, unbridled mix of loud music, color, and life. In the palm of the other hand, the neighborhood was home to the second poorest political riding in Ontario, the highest gun violence per capita in the city, and active light-of-day drug dealing, sometimes involving my own parishioners. There was a popular sticker that you'd find posted up around the neighborhood. It was in black and white text on oval backing. It said, "Jesus or guns." While there might have been more options, this one laid out the basic fork in the road. A telling story. On the night of my induction as the new priest at St. David's, my office door was kicked off its hinges, someone looking for money. And I showed up the next morning to see a large brown boot on my now askew door. Welcome to the neighborhood. Those 5 years were a wild ride of constant learning and experimentation. It changed me as a person and as a priest. I met some honest-to-God saints there and also came face to face with the devil. The church proper was a classic mid-century cinder block building, and the inexpensive windows were made in 1950s pastel glass. The church basement held a large kitchen, a long serving counter, and an expanse of linoleum floor. Every time it rained hard, that basement would flood, including on the days set aside for the baby shower of our then newborn son, Samuel. The photos show my wife and me young and scared and naive and hopeful. Years later, that same basement would be condemned as uninhabitable because of black mold. In addition to the church proper, there were 3 houses on the site. One rented to a Romanian Orthodox monastery, one rented to the House of Sufism, and the third house held my small office, a meeting room and a kitchen, and a large basement room. The basement was rented out on a long-term lease to a musician named Alex. Alex was, and still is, best known as frontman for the Toronto-based band known as Donkey. In 2009, the same year I started at St. David's, Donkey released their album, The Calling of the Streets. On nights I worked late upstairs, I could hear the bass and the keyboard and the guitar riffs muffling up through the floorboards. It was a comfort when you were there at night. When the album came out, Alex gifted me a copy. The 6th track on the album is called The Squatter and opens with these lyrics. I'm a squatter drinking water in the basement of your house. I'm a sinner eating dinner in the basement of your house. It wasn't till years later that I cued in that he was singing about us, the house we shared together. Me, the landlord, the priest living upstairs in the light of day with my too perfect clergy collar on, trying to figure out how to serve God and my people in the wilderness. And him, the tenant, the so-called sinner, squatting in the basement, fiddling with the soundboard by night. A shy and friendly face nodding at me in the doorway, me going up, him going down. On the streets of today's gospel, we meet a different donkey, a beast of burden sung about since the prophets Isaiah and Zechariah. And on this donkey rides the one they call Jesus. Donkeys are known for being slow, sure-footed, stubborn, and strong. All qualities that its rider will need as he begins the worst and last week of his short life. Matthew, the author of our gospel, ends the quote from the prophets with a description of the donkey. But the original prophecy continues and points us to where that donkey is headed. One day, a king riding this donkey will banish the chariots and the horses and the bows of war. He will proclaim peace for the nations. For this particular king and this particular peculiar donkey are not saber-rattling for a military takeover. This king, this donkey are bending swords into plowshares, taking that which was a weapon to kill and turning it into a tool to till the soil. To be clear, the plowshares part got lost in the crowd. The crowd that had gathered around this strange king shouted what would have been heard as incendiary language, "Hosanna to the Son of David." They were convinced that this king was in fact their promised Messiah. He's riding in on a triumphal procession. He's next going to enter the Jewish temple where he overturns the tables of the money changers and scatters the animals and coins. All that's left is for him to lead this near riot to the Roman garrison next door, overthrow them, and the place is ours. Yesterday was the third edition of the global No Kings, No Tyrants rally, protesting Donald Trump and his authoritarianism. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but it was slated to be the largest single day of nonviolent direct action by any movement in U.S. history. Today marks the 2026th edition of a different rally. We call it Palm Sunday. And if you add up the numbers, it is quite possibly the largest and longest running day of nonviolent direct action in history. For when you raise this palm, no matter your politics, you are declaring that the one we welcome today is more powerful and more important than any earthly king. These palms are palmate. Their fronds fan out from a central point, just like the palm of your hand. And today we raise our hands to declare that Jesus is the one to whom we pledge allegiance and in whom we place our trust. For much of history, Jesus has been mischaracterized, cartooned is a better word, as having no politics, as if you and I were just souls on sticks and God sent Jesus to give us chicken soup and take care of our inner spiritual life. As if God couldn't possibly be bothered with all that complex worldly stuff. Nothing could be further from the truth. To follow Jesus is to align ourselves with the politics of Jesus. Oh, Jesus has a politics, but it is not shaped by golden crowns, but a crown of thorns. Not by a throne, but by a cross, and in the politics of Jesus, the brokenhearted rule. On that fateful day, Jesus went up to Jerusalem, riding that donkey up the mountain to where the temple stood. He could have used this moment to grab the upstairs office with the window, to believe the hype and the shouts of his followers, "Hosanna, you are the man." Instead, he rides that donkey till the wheels fall off. Rides it till the going up becomes going down, all the way down to hell itself, as the rest of Holy Week would show. Just when he could have had it all, Jesus climbs down to the basement of this life, the place where it floods when it rains. And if you take a deep breath, you can feel the black mold in your lungs. His final song, muffled through the floorboards of Good Friday, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The creator of the world treated like a trespasser, the Holy One treated like a sinner, the one who rides a donkey himself becoming like the creature he rides, a beast of burden. And he did it all for you. Your burdens, my burdens, the burdens of the whole world. Today, on Palm Sunday, amid the calling of the streets, Jesus reveals what learning to follow him looks like. Humbling ourselves, entering the basement of one another's burdens, renouncing all violence in God's name. If you're not sure which way to go, the donkey will lead you. Slower than you want to go and stubborn, yet sure-footed when the ground gives way.